This episode is sponsored by Pet Matrix Premium Canine Supplements. Straight Up Dog Talk is super excited to be partnered with Pet Matrix. After exhausting several other pet supplemental brands, I am now seeing the results that I have always been searching for Toby and Fitz. Pet Matrix supports all three pillars of canine wellness using their cell matrix delivery. It delivers nutrition directly into the cell. If you're looking for a supplement that pairs with nature and science, look no further and get your dog on Pet Matrix today. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, a new kind of podcast where no topic is off limits. We're bringing in experts and owners to have the conversations we should be having as a dog community. Each week, a new guest will share firsthand experiences, educational resources, or professional guidance to help you learn and grow along with your dog. You won't get one perspective here, you'll get them all, because every dog is different and every owner is too.
You can follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk, or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Em, and I'm flying solo this week because I have two guests instead of one. Everybody welcome Laurel and Rob to Straight Up Dog Talk. How are you guys doing tonight? Good. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely love your account. You guys have quite the crew, and they're all so unique and so adorable. But, you know, everybody has a little bit of favoritism there for Thor, kind of steals the show, along with Rob and their wonderful relationship. So I kind of wanted to bring you on tonight and have you talk about all four of your dogs and kind of tell us their backstories and then what led us into the featuring of the amazing relationship between Rob and Thor. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourselves and the origin stories for each dog?
Okay, I'm Laurel and we are currently living in Mexico in the desert, right near the Texas border. The closest town is an hour and a half away, so we are really secluded. And we're just here with our four dogs. And we both work online and just are enjoying the adventure.
And it's very nice to have the space for the dogs to do what they want to do and play around more. And we have a lot of reactive dogs, which we'll get into. And just not being around so many people really helps them and has helped them mesh better in our family.
Yeah, reactivity is definitely something that's been quite a popular topic on this show. There are so many ways that dogs can be reactive, and I think that educating people on, you know, the levels of reactivity and the kinds of reactivity is really important. You guys have dog reactive dogs, isn't that correct?
And one people reactive dog.
Specifically, one people reactive dog. Yes, I'm going to let you tell those stories because there was one that you told me that kind of caught me off guard with your dad, and that really surprised me. So I'm going to let you share that with the listeners. I have an order of the way they came into your home. So let's start with Eden and kind of talk about her story.
Yeah, I got Eden before I had Rob in my life. And I had just been living with a couple friends and wanted a dog. And I had no idea what puppy mills and backyard breeding really was. I wasn't educated about that. I had only had dogs that we rescued from like family friends and stuff growing up. And I was scrolling on Facebook and Craigslist and whatnot and all the places you shouldn't look for dogs. And I saw an ad for Eden. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'll go look at her. So I took a couple friends and we drove like 2 hours. And we got to this dirt road and we drove back and this guy came out and he was like, I'm a police officer, which was kind of sketchy to just leave with that. But we were like, okay, cool. And we went out to his backyard and there were 20 or 30 dogs chained up on short chains and bleeding and crying and tons of puppies just running around. And so obviously we were like, oh, this is sketchy. Like this isn't normal. And he was like, yeah, puppies are so big because they're so full of food. And I was like, I don't think that's right. But I had a friend catch Eden because all these puppies were running around and it was pouring rain and she was the only one we could catch. And so we took her home and we reported everything, but I wasn't sure about how the process of how to do that went. So they never gave us a follow-up or anything. And him saying he was a police officer, he had the police car and everything. So it was just all a weird situation.
Those situations really usually tend to be pretty sketchy. I think that educating people on what those situations look like is really important. Like you said, we've talked about this on other episodes. We don't go to Craigslist, don't go to Facebook Marketplace. Definitely don't buy dogs off of Instagram or TikTok. These are things that are happening more en masse because of backyard breeders and puppy mill situations. And I think the awareness is starting to become a little bit more spread out, but it's definitely one of those things that I think is going to live on for a little longer than we would like for it to live on. I am glad that you did report that situation, and unfortunately, it's one of those things that we'll never know how it turned out, but that is the best thing you can do, is just report those situations when you stumble across them. So you got Eden and everything was going okay with her, and then you decided that maybe it was time to add another dog?
Yeah, well, Rob was actually my dog sitter before we had gotten together for Eden. And so he really liked her when she was a puppy. And he used to text me even when I was home and be like, can I take her to this tonight, whatever. So I guess that's kind of how we got to know each other. He would take her to his own events and things. And eventually we moved to Texas together, to the Mexico-Texas border as friends. And then we started to date and stuff. And we decided Eden needed a sibling because she had siblings in the house that I had lived in with friends. So we went to a humane society in Texas, like 4 hours from our house, and we looked at 2 dogs. And one of them was Athena, and I did not want Athena at all. But Rob said since we drove all the way there, we needed to leave with a dog. I just didn't get the sense that she was going to be as great as she ended up being. But, we took her home, and she was crazy for the first year and 6 months. She just calmed me down.
Yeah, she was a lot calmer before we brought her home, and as soon as we got her home and she met Eden, it's like she was just uncaged.
And she was from a humane society. She had just gotten in a dog fight, so she was shaved and covered in like the stitches and scratches and stuff. But she was fine with dogs still. So she's a trooper.
She is a trooper. That's so funny. And, I think that happens to a lot of people. They go into the shelter or they go to a breeder and they pick the dog that's in the corner. They picked the dog that's quiet. They're like, oh, that's going to be the easy dog. And then that's not what happens. I didn't pick Fitz. He was an accidental litter and was given to me by a friend. And I didn't know, he seemed like a lazy, sleepy little puppy. And then I got him and he was this lazy, sleepy little puppy for about 4 days. And then it hasn't stopped since. I wouldn't have it any other way, but they sneak up on you, that's for sure. So now we're happily invested with 2 dogs, and we decide that 3 is an idea that is a possibility.
Yeah. So after we got Athena, we were not really looking for another dog, but it became easier to have dogs because we had moved again, and so we had a yard and it was easy to just let them out and we could play with them. And it was logistically it made sense to have 2. And we're like, maybe we'll have a 3rd. We were pondering the idea, but we hadn't really settled down on actually deciding it until Laurel found Thor and sent me a picture of him. And I was like, I think we got to go see him.
Well, for Thor, people always think that it's me who gets all the dogs, I guess, like in the traditional, the woman always wants dogs. But if Rob sees a dog, he can't say no. And so I can't be the no person either. So it just gets hard for us because we'll just egg each other on. And that's how we ended up with all these dogs. But I saw Thor and I said, okay, we'll just go look. And I think we both knew what just looking meant because we've never just looked at a dog and not brought it home. But yeah, then we went and saw Thor, and he was a quiet one in the kennel, and he had just been rescued. They found him in his house after his owner had been arrested, and they said he had been left in the house with a brother, and the Humane Society in front of the pound had pulled his brother, so Thor was on the euthanasia list, but his brother was saved. And I couldn't not have him. He came into the room after being quiet in the kennel and was just foaming at the mouth with excitement and ran and jumped right in Rob's lap. And I was like, whoa, that's a huge dog. That's kind of scary. Why is he running at us like that? But yeah, they just connected quickly. And then we got to take him on about a week later, and he's the first dog I've ever cried over in my whole life.
Why was that?
I was just so excited. I didn't think that we'd actually get him with all the things that were in the way and the other people looking at him and stuff. And we got lucky.
Yeah, so Thor was a little bit longer of a process to get. Like all of our other dogs, it was kind of like the next day or within the week. Thor, we had to wait a little over a week to get him just because they wanted to make sure they had to run like their tests, make sure he had his shots, and they do a lot of like on leash, off leash training, and then like interaction with other dogs and stuff before they release the dogs. And so he hadn't gone through any of that because we saw him the first day that they had put him in a pound. And so he took a little bit longer. So every day, Laurel had already changed her lock screen to his picture. So it was already written in stone.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, I mean, look at your guys' account. We're going to obviously share your social media accounts with the in the episode notes here with the listeners. But mythological pets, I mean, obviously, you guys have been listening. You hear all of these names. We're going with, the God realm here. We've got Athena, Eden, Freya. We're going down that road. So I'm sure you can guess that the dog number 4 is also in that realm of things. But looking at Thor, I mean, he just is, he's like the sweetest little thing. And you reference him as the hippo a lot. And I think that's probably my favorite thing. I love it when you guys come up in my feed and I'm like, oh, I get to use my hippo emoji today because Thor's in my feed. It's like my favorite thing. So you have 3 dogs. Everybody's getting along okay. And you decide that 4 is maybe what we're going to do here. Was it a mutual decision, or are we tagging each other back and forth on this one too? Or was this situation a little different?
There was no planning for 4. I really sprung that on Rob. And I think I did it secretly in my mind, knowing that if I said we foster a dog, he wouldn't be able to rehome the dog. And so I started looking for Great Danes, but completely behind his back. Like rescue Great Danes and Facebook groups where people would post like, oh, this dog's in this state and it's this many days left to live. It needs a home. It needs a foster. So I posted and I said, show me what you got, basically. I got a contact, so you can let me know. And he had no idea I did that. And I told him, I said, well, I got this message from this lady who said, I have this dog who has been left in a crate for a year, the whole year that she's been alive. And she's severely people aggressive and she's covered in scars and cuts and way underweight because she hasn't been fed. And I thought, that sounds perfect. So I told Rob, I said, we need to foster this dog and rehabilitate her. He said, okay, we can foster her. And then on the drive to go get her, he said, I think I'll just keep her. And I said, I haven't met her yet, but okay.
Well, I didn't realize that the dog we're going to see was a Great Dane. So that was another shock for me, but it ended up working out.
Well, I wanted a large dog. But yeah, we got there and she wouldn't even get out of the car of the lady of the rescuer that she was with. And she's growling at us from inside of it. And probably took 45 minutes before the lady forced her to get out, and we got her in our car. And she was the hardest rehabilitation that we have done. And I think it taught us a lot about that kind of abuse and that kind of neglect and the no socialization, because it was hard to deal with a 150-pound dog because she is people aggressive, and that's a lot of weight to have to hold back when she has her moment.
So what do you think was the most difficult transition? Because you went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Like, where did that get hard?
2 to 3. 2 to 3 is the hard part. After we had Thor with our third, which Thor was our third was a lot easier than the first 2. So 4 just was an easier transition because Freya, even though she was people aggressive around the house and even like in the backyard and stuff, she was like perfect. So the 2 to 3 was kind of hard because you have to like plan a little bit more, but after that it was just like second nature.
Well, it goes from being able to take them on a walk by yourself with 2 peanuts to now you have to have somebody else and you have to have a leash system. 2 of you guys the hardest for sure.
Do you guys have a leash system, or do you just always go together?
No, we're never really apart, but Rob would walk, and he used to walk all four of them by himself, and he would connect them to each other. Because, like, we have our dog, Athena, can be completely off leash and she's fine, and Thor doesn't have recall, but he can't go far because he's old and slow. So he would just connect them. I would never take all four of them just because I get too nervous because of the pack mentality. If one of them got down at somebody or another dog, I don't think I could hold them all back.
Yeah, usually when I would take all four of them out, which I haven't done it in a while, but usually when I take all four out, I would take Eden, and when I would have Eden and Freya, because they're the two crazier ones for sure, I would have them closer to me, so they would be I would have them like connected to me, like around my waist. So even if they started to go crazy, I can just like hold my ground, and then they wouldn't be able to go too far. And then I would connect Athena to Eden, and then Freya to Thor. We had like a grounding point. The Freya or Athena and Thor aren't really doing anything. You're just going to be looking around like, what's happening?
I actually just got one of those canine trainers belts that you can loop the leashes through, and then it buckles around your waist, which I think is incredible because, first of all, hands-free. Like, and also, like, my upper body is not as strong as my lower body, and if I can use my whole body and we only have one dog that's like big enough to pull me. My 12-pound dog isn't taking me anywhere. But Fitz, he would definitely take me for a ride if he wanted to. I can't imagine having 4 dogs pulling out me. Like, you guys are very brave.
Yeah, we've definitely gone through a lot of leashes. It was definitely a trial and error point because you don't realize we definitely had to do a lot more research on leashes because we had bigger dogs, and it came to a point where Freya would just start snapping leashes like right at the buckle because she's so heavy and like has so much force. So we had to like actually get some like real heavy duty stuff.
Yeah, our lightest dog is 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's my heaviest dog is 50. I've had bigger dogs in the past. My biggest one was 120 pounds, so close, but not quite as big as Athena. And also maybe only partially German or Great Dane. She definitely had German Shepherd and some Mastiff in her. She was a big girl. I like big dogs. It's just, unfortunately, right now, that's not where my lifestyle is at. So Fitz wasn't even the best. And he's like, I'm a big dog. Yeah, it's a big commitment. It's a huge commitment. I mean, you know, in addition to making sure that they have enough exercise, you know, you're talking about food, and food is expensive, right? I mean, you're feeding 4 dogs. So let me just ask you, if you don't mind sharing, how much do you think you spend a month on dog food?
Actually, only like $180, $220, between $180 and $220.
That's actually not terrible.
No, people are surprised at that answer.
Let's go ahead and dive into the little bit of the reactivity, since you kind of transitioned into that about one dog being upset and the rest of them getting upset. Which 2 dogs are the ones that are reactive?
So the main dog, our main dog reactive dog is Eden, and she's the smallest out of all of them, but she's probably like the most athletic. So she is alert all the time and on go. So once she reacts, usually it depends on how many other dogs are with her or what dogs are with her. But if all 4 of them, once she reacts, they're all like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what's happening?
And then Freya is our people reactive dog. And Eden isn't people reactive unless Freya gets going on her own. She actually loves to be pet and stuff. But if Freya's there, she'll be like, okay, I don't have to like these people either. But alone, Freya also doesn't like people. She just has a hard time with them.
Which one was it that had the incident with your dad? Why don't you tell that story?
It was Freya. So Freya, you couldn't walk into our house without one of us with you, period. And we don't really have people over that don't know about our dogs and their situations ever. And we had my siblings come visit out here in the middle of nowhere desert, and Freya was fine with them. They knew how to respect her space, and you have to be quiet around her and approach her carefully, and introductions have to be done correctly. She was fine with them. And then my dad came, and he's a bit of a rowdy guy. He's also 6'4". He's a huge guy. And something about it, Freya always kind of side-eyeing him. And then one day we were outside, and he stayed with us. So she was okay with him, but so I was chilling inside with us and everything. And then one day we were outside, and he said, I'll go get a beer. And Rob and I both said, no, we'll go get it for you, or let us come with you. And before I could stop him, he walked inside all by himself, and he got bit, and he just froze in the doorway like a normal person who doesn't know how to handle those situations does. And Rob had to go and drag him outside, and he was okay. It was just the first time that she's ever actually bitten somebody.
Your dad reacted, he recovered okay after that?
Yeah, he always, well, when we first got her, he doesn't know much about dog reactivity and stuff. He always had normal, well-behaved dogs. And when we first got her, he used to call her Lawsuit. That's a joke. That's why he would refer to her all the time, because he placed to meet her when we got her, and she would not let him pet her. And he was just like, okay, whatever, Lawsuit. And so he came and he tried to befriend her, and they were okay for a couple of days. But after that incident, she couldn't be around him anymore. We tried the next day, and he had dropped a box on the ground like normal, like putting it out for trash, and she just lost it again. But I was inside, so I just put her in my lap, and that was the last time they interacted.
Well, sometimes you just have to limit that accessibility to the dogs, because there are people that don't know how to act around dogs, just in general. I mean, how many times do you go out and you see it, whether it's you or someone else, you're walking down the street and you see somebody charging at somebody else's dog with their hands out, trying to pet them, not even asking. Owner accountability is one thing, but awareness is another thing. And there are just people who are not aware of etiquette when it comes to dogs at all.
Absolutely.
And then they get shocked when they get bit. And then, it is a lawsuit issue in a lot of cases, but most of the time it's their fault that it happened in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's enough education either about about the awareness. And I never, before having reactive dogs, really knew anything about them or knew about how you should put space between yourself and a reactive dog. I just had no idea until we were in that ourselves. So I think it needs to be talked about more in general.
I agree 100%. I mean, that's, what we're trying to do with this platform is kind of shine that light on those areas that don't get talked about. And I think that it's really important to note that, there are so many things as a dog community that we do talk about, and we love to share our happy little moments and our cute little first accomplishments and our good memories, but we don't share the bad things, which is why on my account, you'll find my dog being reactive when somebody walks by the house, shaking his head with his ball in his mouth and growling. And you'll see us working on skills in the house and in the backyard, because people don't understand anymore that dog ownership, it's not dreamy. It's not without complication. It doesn't always go smoothly. And it's one of those things that you have to be prepared for it. I mean, I am guilty of, rescuing a dog in my early 20s when I had absolutely no business rescuing a dog, living by myself in an apartment in Florida. And, we made it through, and he was the reason that I became a vet tech and have worked with animals for the majority of my life. But that's not how it goes for everybody. And we have so many people who are returning dogs to shelters or, leaving them, abandoning them on the side of the road, dumping puppies because they don't know how to deal with them. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to because of this podcast where they work with rescues, and they've just had people call them and surrender dogs that, oh, somebody gave me this dog. It's like a $5,000 purebred dog, and I don't have time to potty train it, so you need to take this dog. It's just unbelievable to me that people can just turn a life over like that and just have no sense of connection or responsibility for another living being.
Yeah, I've never understood that either, how people commit and then get rid of a dog.
I've also said it before. Go ahead.
I also think it really comes down to a lot how people grew up. Because me personally, I grew up with animal owners for a while. My dad was a biology teacher, so we always had fish. So we had dogs, we had cats, we had iguanas, this, that, and the third. But when a lot of my friends, they always ask me, how do you take care of 4 dogs? I can never imagine. And it comes down to they've never really had pets before, and they don't really understand this is a commitment. And they're always like, oh yeah, I want to get a dog. And I'm like, are you really ready to commit yourself to it? This is not something you could just get and then give back when, time happens or life happens with something. You have to like persevere. Like this dog or whatever animal is a part of your life now.
No, it's absolutely something that you have to adapt your life to the dog's needs. You have to be able to give up those, few time pieces out of the day to take the walks, to play fetch in the yard, to make sure that, they're getting the affection and the time to bond with you. And that is a commitment. I mean, people have kids and they do the same thing. And it's really just kind of a sad situation. But with kids, people don't usually just give the kids away.
Yeah.
They usually kind of, keep the kids, and whether or not that's a great situation either is, we won't speak on that, but people are more likely to just get rid of the dog, give the dog to a friend, give the dog to a shelter. And that's kind of how we've ended up in this, bad situation that we're in. And I think that if people would do their research and, maybe foster a dog first, maybe volunteer at the shelter before that, really get an idea of what it's like. Because I think you're right. A lot of people didn't grow up with pets and they just assume, well, that dog on the internet does this and this and this, so I'm going to get a dog just like that and it's going to be just like that, because they don't know any better. And that's not how it works.
I always tell people that if I could go back and tell myself to not get my first dog that young, then I would have. And I would never, ever get rid of my dog and the way things are now. But it does make things so hard, like travel and all the things that people want to do. I would wait until I was in a better situation too. But it's all now,
especially with reactivity. I mean, because you've had reactive dogs, and
sometimes you don't know that's gonna happen. It just happens. You can't plan for it.
Well, and that's the thing about reactivity, is that it can change, right? So like we can have a non-reactive dog, and 2 years later, now we have a reactive dog. And then 3 years later, the dog is reactive in a different way, plus the other way. And it just kind of stacks up, and people don't expect that. But just like, humans take on trauma, so do dogs, and they store that and they react to it.
Yeah, that's what happened with Eden. She wasn't reactive when I had her in her beginning of her life before she was 1. And we did, and I don't know, I didn't know enough about dogs then, but I did take her out and she met plenty of people and other dogs. And then one day, I can't remember the exact moment, she just flipped the switch and started getting together around other dogs. And I was like, oh, where did this come from?
Yeah, it is absolutely, I mean, it's genetics. It's, sometimes there's mutations in the brain. There are all kinds of, aggression problems, idiopathic aggression that can come out of dogs, and other things that are, mental health issues. Dogs have mental health issues, and it's not something that we talk about as a community, but is something we should be talking about as a community, because when people get these dogs that they consider difficult, and I'm using air quotes here, difficult, that it's just because they don't know how to approach the situation appropriately. They don't know where to reach out. They don't try to reach out, or they just feel ashamed and they don't talk about it. And again, that's not what we want. We want people to talk about it. I want people to come and listen to this podcast because people are talking about those things, so they don't feel alone, so that they know, oh, hey, Laurel and Rob talked about that on their episode, and now I can connect with them and tell them my story, and maybe that'll help somebody else.
Yeah, actually, we do get a lot of messages. We shared a video where we posted our dogs having an incident with border patrol, which was really vulnerable. And I did struggle with overcoming, like feeling embarrassed about the reactivity and going places, and people seeing my dogs and not being able to have people over that I don't know how like that situation worked. And I've got so many messages, people asking like, oh, thank you for sharing this. Mine is the same. Do you know any resources, or do you know what I can do about this? And it's just interesting. And it is nice to know that there's so many other people going through the same thing, and that embarrassment is totally not needed. There's no reason you should feel that about your dog being that way, because it's just like humans. And I think Eden stems from the puppy mill where she came from, because she was watching all those dogs fight and get hurt and bleed. And the first moment that I really noticed it was this time when we were in line to get her rabies shots and stuff caught up. and she was fine. She'd calmed down. There's a ton of other dogs there. And then a dog cried when it got a shot. And she just lost it. Not in the I'm mad at you, but in the I need to know you're okay kind of way. And that was just really interesting to me.
Yes. She's also our most talkative dog, so she will let you know if anything's happening.
She's also the most high energy. She's half caterpillar, half pit. And she is a high energy dog.
That is a combination right there. My goodness. I'm sure you guys can all hear Fitz now in the background because he's being vocal. He's probably the chattiest dog I've ever had. So let's kind of get into the Thor and Rob relationship. That's kind of what originally drew me to your account was watching Rob interact with Thor, the piggyback rides, the carrying him around like a baby, taking him to the gym with you, letting him get in the bed or the chair with you. It's just a really adorable relationship. And I love that you share it with everyone, and that you kind of allow yourself to be teased a little bit because of the relationship and how much you baby him. How did that start?
Well, at first, Thor's always been, I call him the lover boy. And I would always take him everywhere with me because he's one of like the most peoplest dog I've ever met. And I grew up around pit bulls. So my dad had a blue nose and I had a blue nose. So I never really noticed the stigma behind it. Like I knew it was out there, but I never had really experienced it. And then there was one time I took him with me. I had to go pick up some stuff from Home Depot, and the dogs are allowed to go Home Depot. So I took him with me. And I had him in the cart, and I'm just like walking around, getting my stuff. And I'm like kind of noticing people are like avoiding us, but I was like, this is probably nothing, And then one of the workers actually came up to me and was like, hey, yes, dogs are allowed, but a lot of people are kind of complaining about your dog. Is it a way like you can just like take them out or, with something? I was like, that's not right, because I've come here with Athena. I've come here with Eden before. And now that I brought Thor, it's just kind of a weird situation. I'm not understanding why. And, I was very understanding. I was like, yeah, I just had to get a couple more things. I'm about to head out. So I grabbed my things and I left. And that was my first experience in running. And I really didn't know how to react of people discriminating against my dog just because of the way he looked, even though he's one of the nicest dogs we have.
Yeah, he truly is. He's just a big sweetie. And just for clarification, because obviously we don't have pictures of the dogs up right now when people are listening, Thor he's a pit bull. Is he a full pit bull? Is he a mix? He's definitely a bully.
100% American bully.
Yeah, so he's an American bully steady side.
But people don't really know the difference between American bullies and pit bulls. I've also learned, and they are different breeds.
Yeah, it's technically different breeds, but they look very, very similar. And a lot of people that don't know dogs but know what a pit bull looks like. It's like, okay, he's a pit bull. And that's just the immediate stigma that people get. Now, I do, on the other hand, meet a lot of people that are like, oh, he's so beautiful, and they want to come to the bed. And I'm like, yes, go ahead. But there is that negative stigma that we get more often than not of, okay, this dog is probably dangerous. This dog is probably going to bite me, when all he wants is you to pet him on the head.
I never understood that, because for me, I guess it's because I'm a dog person. I guess it's because like dogs are, my entire universe. Everything revolves around the dogs for me. I see a dog and I'm the person that's like running 2 blocks and crossing the street and trying to not hit by a car because I want to ask that person if I can pet their dog, right? I don't understand quickly cross the street. Get away. And, in episode 2, we talked with Charlie and Nicola because they're over in the UK and they're dealing with the bully ban and their dog Enzo. And Enzo's a big guy. He's like 130 pounds. And they said that, prior to the ban being a thing, people were always friendly with him, always wanted to pet him, never had any issue with him. But the second that label came out, people were crossing the street. People were turning and walking the other way down the block. People didn't want anything to do with them, and we're now putting that he's dangerous label onto Enzo, who is one of the biggest babies I've ever seen. And I mean, honestly, the bully breeds, they really are. They are big babies. And people who are uneducated about the breed and how affectionate they are, I think have just this misplaced fear of them, because they are associated with things like dog fighting and, mauling and biting. But let's just be real for a second, because you could throw so many other dogs into those categories. Let's talk about German Shepherds, Malinois, Rottweilers, Dobermans. And, funnily enough, working as a vet tech for as many years as I did, I've been bit by so many dogs. I've never been bit by a pit bull. But you know what I have been bit by? A chocolate lab.
I always say, too, that if other dogs had the bite force of a pit bull, then they would be talked about in the same way. Because it's not a breed. It's just the fact that if a Chihuahua bites you, you're much less likely to be hurt than if a dog like Thor bites you. Even though the chance of a normal Chihuahua biting you versus Thor is higher. No shade to the Chihuahuas everywhere, but yeah, I've covered all these years. Yeah, I experience stuff all the time. People, I'll never forget one time I was at this gas station, and this lady, I went inside and Rob was walking all four of them outside, and she said, "Are those your dogs?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'd pet the three ones, but I would not pet that pit bull." And I said, "The only one that would let you pet it is the pit bull." And yeah, that the other three are seen as nice breeds. I air quote it nice, but they have issues. They're not your typical family friendly nice breeds, and it's just ridiculous. And the amount of comments we get about Thor being awful with kids and stuff. And I love to reply with the video of, I have a sister who is 7, and she came to visit, and she just cuddled with Thor the entire time she was here. He loved her. They laid outside together. They laid on the couch, and he's a gentle giant.
I just love that so much. I think that it is, he's such a good dog, and his personality just really shines through in your videos. And it's clear that you put a lot of time and effort into your dogs, and that you really, really love them. I know that you don't feature the other 3 as much as you do Thor, but I really do enjoy getting to see them. And they are all on the website. And obviously, they are featured on your page as well. What do you think the most difficult thing about having 4 dogs is?
I think the most difficult thing for me is the inability to be able to travel and stuff because of their special needs and reactivity. And also, I get separation anxiety when I'm away from them. So when we're traveling, I'll just be like, oh, I need to FaceTime them. I need to see pictures, whatever. But we're moving back to our hometown in the next few months, which will help because we have family there who can dog sit, who we trust enough that if situation arose, it would be okay. But yeah, that's the hardest part, is not being able to go get things.
Yeah, traveling is the only downside I see to having $4, and it does make it a little bit harder, but I think it's definitely worth it because it makes us traveling more memorable because we have more stories. You have to actually stop and enjoy places. We're not just okay, let's just spend 10 hours on the road one way. We have to stop, stretch the dogs.
To get out traveled with them. We have driven thousands of miles with them, and they're spectacular in the car. And we drove from Georgia to Mexico and back several times. They're good traveler partners.
I think that's a really great way to look at it, though, to, put the spin on. It makes it more memorable because, it takes more time and energy and effort to get to that goal. I really like that a lot. How do you think that they're going to do with the change of scenery when you guys move? How are you preparing for that?
Well, I think they're going to adjust pretty well because they're going to go back to having a yard again that they can really run around in. I feel like they're just going to get back and be like, okay, we're just back home again. And they usually, when they get back there, they're tireder because of the long car ride and stuff like that. But I think they're going to really enjoy it being back. It's not going to be as dry, so it'll be nice for them.
Yeah, we came from where we're headed back to, and they're young. Eden, Athena, and Freya, our girls, are all 2, and Thor is 4. So they've lived a lot of places in their 2 years, but they really do well with the transition.
That's good because moving is hard enough. I can't imagine moving with 4 dogs. I think that would be, I moved 2 dogs from Texas.
The only one that gets weird about it is Thor. And I think it's because of his cat. I think he thinks we're leaving the same way his last owner did, because it was the first time I ever heard him freak out as we were moving here. We were packing suitcases, and he would run and sit in the suitcase and just cry. And we'd be like, Thor, obviously we're not leaving you, but he would just freak out. And when we loaded the car and trailer, obviously before the dogs were in there, he was just losing it. That's like, you're coming. It's okay.
Poor guy. I can see where separation anxiety, if you're left alone like that because, your owner got arrested and you're just hanging out in the house by yourself. I could percent see why there would be some separation anxiety there with him. And, my dogs get funny when I get out the suitcase, which isn't very often. And, the goal is to eventually be traveling with this podcast and coming to, do interviews in person and like meet you guys and meet the dogs and meet the business owners and all that kind of stuff. And the goal is to get Fitz's reactivity under control enough that he can come and do it as well, because I feel like it would be so much more personable just to like do these interviews in person. While it's super fun to do it, over Zoom and chat with each other, I think it would be so much more fun to just travel around and meet everybody and see all of the different environments that you guys live in. I mean, I can't imagine living out in the middle of the desert. I don't know how you guys do it. The inconvenience would be too much for me.
It's definitely a different way of life, but it's nice.
It was something we needed to experience at that moment, but we are over it.
Yeah, it's time to go back. So,
what do you think will be your favorite part about being back with your family and in a more populated area?
I think the access to things will be really nice. I do think, and I didn't remember to mention this, but we will struggle with having been out here. We haven't seen many dogs and people. And a couple weeks ago, we went on a road trip, and the dogs, Eden and Freya, the reactivity was higher than it had been. And I think it's because in the isolation, when they don't see people, they're not used to that. And when we had Freya, we were starting to work on reactivity, taking her to parks and to bakeries where the people knew how to work with it. And they would give her treats and sit with her. And she had started doing really well. We actually were able to drop her off at the groomers and wait. And she didn't bite anybody, no muzzle. She was fine. So I think it will be an adjustment moving back into the city with all of the people around. And it'll be like culture shock. They'll be like, whoa, there's people everywhere. But I think that will just be, in the end of everything, it'll be a good thing to work through that again.
Definitely.
Well, and you guys are obviously, like I said, dedicated to your dogs. So I know that you're going to put the work in and take the time and energy to work with them and to make sure that they succeed in the whole, process. The moving, the being and around new people, being in a new environment, all of the things that you're going to have to go through. And I think that's going to be a really fun journey to watch on your account as you guys kind of move and grow as a group and just kind of see where it leads you. Do you think that there will be a dog number 5, or are you guys done? Are you guys done at 4?
I think so, but I don't think Rob thinks so.
We'll have to see.
Well, yeah, I think that other bully would be really nice.
Another bully would be really nice.
Yeah, maybe. I always feel bad that Thor lost his brother in the sense that they got torn apart after they had been together for 3 years. And I don't know, that's something I sit around a lot, and I'm just like, wow, I feel so bad for him. Because I didn't know about the bully breeds, but I learned after how bonded they can become. So I can't imagine how much that must have felt for them, but maybe one day we'll have another bully brother.
Maybe one day. I don't know. I see Rob's face, and I have.
But if I brought a bully home, Rob wouldn't know how to say no. He did ask me for a 5th dog. When we moved here, we went to a pound with our friend. My friend was getting a dog, and Rob saw the bullet in the back, and he said, "I can't do a 5th really, but she's really cute. What do you think?" And I said, "Absolutely not. No chance."
She was just like Thor, but a girl.
Oh, yeah, I would have had a really hard time saying no to that as well. Oh, gosh. So when do you think this adventure is going to begin? I know you said you're moving soon. Do you guys have a plan, or is this just kind of like a new plan in progress?
Well, for the summer, for sure. The desert summers are brutal, so we're going to try and beat the heat.
Yeah, they are really bad. We actually had Eden got heat stroke last summer.
Yeah, that was really bad.
And that was the first time we learned about it.
Yeah, heat stroke that can be really dangerous. I'm glad that she made it through, because I've seen dogs, unfortunately, that have died because of heat stroke.
Yeah, it was really scary. And we had no idea what was happening. We kept telling Eden, come on. And we thought sometimes when they are just lazy, they just won't get up and come. Like, they'll be lazy. We kept calling her and she just wouldn't get up. And then we walked over and we realized it was because she couldn't get up. And it was terrifying, but she ended up being okay.
I'm really glad that she's okay. And I can definitely see how moving out of the desert right before it gets hot is probably the best plan for you guys. Before we wrap it up tonight on this episode, is there anything about your account or your dogs, any like funny story that's kind of like your favorite that you would just like to share with the listeners?
I think what I love about our account is, so Rob doesn't really social media much, and he doesn't watch other dog accounts or anything. He just does the videos that I tell him to do. And it's just really funny behind the scenes, have him and Thor doing it. And most of our content, I'll walk out of my bedroom and they'll just be on the floor cuddling, or he'll be holding him walking around. And it's so natural and real at everything he does. And when he comes home every night, he picks each of them up one at a time and holds them like babies and kisses them all. And it's just funny to watch. I've never seen it before.
Definitely. Because I lost one of my pit bulls right before I met Laurel, and so I had never really had a dog till Eden was introduced into my life. And so I always made a vow after my dog passed to always treat every day special for them, because they just love you, and I just want to show them a quarter of the amount of love they show me.
I love that. I think you guys have an amazing account, and I love that you share it with us, because it really truly does reflect how much you love your dogs and how much love you give to your dogs. And having, owners like you in the community to really be kind of a shining beacon of how to treat your animals is just really something that's important to us. And I really appreciate you guys being here with us tonight. So thank you so much for being on this episode, and we will have to have you guys come back and give us an update on your journeys and see how the dogs are doing in their new home.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful to have gotten the opportunity to talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, you guys have a good night, and we will see you next week on Straight Up.
Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited, produced, and co-hosted by Josh Wasta, under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk, LLC, and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.